like a Kentucky Fried Idiot.
This week on Hooligan Nation, I ranked the KISS studio albums from worst to first. And if you're interested in the only list that matters, then this is a can't miss episode. Why, you ask? Because I know how to pronounce Neil Peart's name correctly. So stay tuned, because you got
nothing to lose, and he's wrong. You really like my limousine. You like
the way the wheels roll. You like my 7-inch leather heels.
And going to
all of the shows. But
you wanted the best. Well, they retired. So you got two dudes in a garage
talking KISS. Welcome back to Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric podcast. I am Anthony.
I'm Rocco.
Today, we conclude our two-part episode of ranking the KISS studio albums. Last week, we went through Father Rocco's list.
Yeah, I'm still suffering from that.
Oh, wow. There were some interesting rankings.
Yeah.
Can you run down your list real quick for people that missed our last episode?
Yep. Nope.
No,
I don't want to.
But
well, can I give you a little teaser before I do that?
Sure.
Okay, so the teaser is when we first did a short teasing this before. What did I say about the first album? I said, I don't know how we're going to be able to go into this because that first album in the rankings has to be probably like one of my top albums. But based on the point system we used, which I agree with still to this day, but at the same time, that our point system really made that go down. So my biggest disappointment, and you'll know when you see it, is the rankings of that album and where it placed in my list.
Well, for those that do not know, once again, we devised a scoring system that removes as much emotion and nostalgia as possible. We graded each song on a 0 to 10 scale. We then took that raw score and created an average to make our scoring fair, no matter how many songs are on the album. Let's call it the hot in the shade effect. So whether we're talking about Ace's solo album that has 9 songs or Hot in the Shade that has 15 songs, it was scored evenly and fairly by creating an average. We also have a couple lists from listeners and podcasters. Our weekly poll. Oh, it's my favorite part is our weekly poll. Some news, a couple shouted out louds, and music we are listening to. Another fun-filled episode hanging with the hooligans. But first, I'm going to try to get Father Rocco to talk about his list again.
24 albums, including the solo albums, no live albums. So my list starts at 24th with The Elder, 23 Peter Criss album. The 22nd was Monster. My 21st was Sonic Boom. My 20th was Gene Simmons solo album. My 19th was Unmasked. My 18th was Hot in the Shade. My 17th was Crazy Nights. My 16th, I don't want to say.
You don't want to say?
I don't want to say.
I don't blame you for not wanting to say it.
As I said in the very beginning, the point system made the album get knocked down. So the original KISS album I have at number 16, which I don't emotionally agree with, but it's in number 16. I have to put that out there.
I don't emotionally agree with it either.
All right. So again, 2 songs really hurt that one. But anyway, so we'll go on to my 15th was Hotter Than Hell. My 14th was Psycho Circus. My 13th was Revenge. My 12th was Carnival of Souls. My 11th was Destroyer. My 10th was Paul Stanley's solo album.
Did you say Destroyer was 11th?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure.
You do know I have a list of 24 that's completely just, but with my heart. So if you want maybe a future episode, I can give that list.
Yeah, in a future episode, we can deal with your heart.
Okay. All right. So Again, going into the top 10 now, my number 10 was Paul Stanley's solo album. I've always loved that album. My ninth was Love Gun. My eighth was Rock and Roll Over. My seventh was Dressed to Kill. My sixth was Asylum. My fifth was Animalize. My fourth was Lick It Up. My third was the Ace Frehley solo album, 78 solo album. My second was Creatures of the Night. And my number one album that I love is Dynasty. That was going to be With My Heart or Without the Heart. That's my favorite Kiss album all time.
For those of you that watched last week's episode, I made mention that I'm Johnny Carson and he is Ed McMahon. That list proves it. Sorry.
Get your point system.
Sorry. There's no shockers. Well, there's a couple shockers, but they're not like your shockers.
For the
on
record,
my
I don't know
list.
his list yet, so I'm looking forward to this.
You don't know anybody's list, actually.
Correct.
I like it that way. And do you have anything else that you want to add to last episode recap? Anything, maybe, the fact that you had to go out and get a therapist because this stressed you out so much, or I don't know. My part of the recap is this. There was a little dust up between myself and Father Rocco about the pronunciation of the legendary Neil Peart's last name. And as the supervisor of the research and development section of the Hooligan Nation podcast, I instructed all my underlings to find me somewhere proving that I'm correct. I just want to let everybody know we don't have any underlings.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, I hear
But
crickets. I hear crickets.
I do have this.
Please establish once and for all to all your fans watching the correct pronunciation of your last name.
Oh, okay. It's Peart.
It's Peart. Thank you.
Longy.
You've heard it pronounced every way. I know because it's in your book. You talked
Since I was
about
a little kid, yeah, school teachers and other kids and that, and my whole family is kind of the cross to bear of having an old English Anglo-Saxon name like that.
Do you know why I don't care? Would you like to know why I don't care?
Sure.
Because it wouldn't be an issue on Eddie Trunk's show if he hasn't been called Pert his entire life, which is why it's appropriate for me to call him Neil Peart.
It is not appropriate, by the way.
He's accepted it. All these years, he's accepted it regardless.
By the way, I have to do this. Thank you, Eddie Trunk, hopefully for allowing me to use that audio. If not, there'll be a black screen on because I will have had to cut it out. But
Eddie, you're welcome to come on here and like chew us out if you like. You come on here to say whatever you want to us.
I think that 10, 15-second audio is worth getting a copyright strike over because I'm right.
Yeah, but you know what? It's still, I'm still right too, because it had to become an issue on his show because he's been called Pert so many times by so many people for so long. Which it wouldn't even been an issue on his show if he hadn't been called Pert his entire life.
You should be a defense attorney. You are actually going to continue to argue with me why you pronouncing the guy's name wrong still makes you right.
It's because it does. People have called him Neil Peart forever.
That does not make it
just because,
right.
Listen, just because his mom calls him the correct English, whatever they called it, calls him correctly, the rock world has called him Neil Peart his entire career.
Not me.
Entire career.
Not me.
I saw a Russian concert and they named each other's names and they said it Peart.
Oh, are you gonna make me go to concert videos to where he gets announced?
I saw a Russian concert and it was said Peart.
I think
so. Regardless of his legally termed name, is what you call it, peart?
It is Peart.
Okay, you
It
can
is
have the peart.
P
Tomato,
E
tomato. I will
A R
listen,
T.
listen, because for the rest of my entire life, I will call him Neil Peart.
But that you'll still be incorrect.
And so will 100,000 other people that have called him that their entire lives. I could
But
care
that's
less about being
part
right.
but that's part of our job here. We speak to the people directly. So for all of you Hooligan Nation listeners and watchers out there, if you have been calling him Neil Peart, stop, please.
No, don't
His
stop,
name
guys.
is Neil Peart.
Call him what the rock world has called him his entire career. Call him what you listen. Rush were really good friends with Kiss. Call him what they've called him his entire career, because I guarantee you they've called him Neil Peart too. Okay.
News.
News, yes. So my news is going to be kind of a continuation from the last episode. There is definitely an Eddie Van Halen spirit in the spirit world these days. Last week I covered Sammy Hagar right in the song Encore, Thank You, Good Night. The song is a lot of tapping in the beginning with Joe Satriani doing it, very much an Eddie feel. If you don't remember, he had a dream, and it's covered in the last episode. I recommend checking that out. But the continuation from that, Wolfgang Van Halen has a new song out called The End. And eerily similar, the very beginning of the song has a lot of tapping and a very much an Eddie Van Halen feel from Wolfgang. And there's also a really, really cool video that I highly recommend checking out. Again, the song is The End. The video is kind of like a horror film type of vibe to it. And it's got Danny Trejo, who's been in a lot of different movies. I probably said his name wrong too. He's been in a lot of different movies.
You did pretty good on that one.
Okay.
The funny part is before we went on camera, you were calling him Robert Trujillo, and I was wondering what the hell you were talking about.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Well, I do. And the video is a take. I took it as a take on Thriller, especially
absolutely.
the end.
Yeah. And the guy, they hired legend Robert Rodriguez from Day of the Dead to work with all the effects and stuff. But it is really cool. The premise of it really is they show up at this thing, and Danny Trejo is there, and he's at a desk, and he's kind of like the guy checking them in. And he's talking to Wolfgang, and he's like, you guys have to be quiet. You got to do like ballads. You have to do really soft music. And he looks at him like he's nuts.
All right. So my new segment, just in case you watch or listen to us on Fridays for full episodes and you do not watch our Wednesday segments, you don't know what you're missing. But just in case, I wanted to talk real quick about Peter Criss and his recent announcement. So Peter Criss has announced through Julian Gill of the KISS FAQ podcast that he is releasing a rock album this fall. Julian called it a hard rock kick-ass album. Also reported in that video was Barry Pointer produced the album. He has produced acts like Marilyn Manson and Ozzy Osbourne, among others. Billy Sheehan, John Five, Piggy D, and the legendary Paul Schaefer, oh my God, all guest on the album. We just filmed a bonus episode discussing all of this in detail. The episode premiered May 21st, in case you are interested. That is all I really have. Music we're listening to.
Okay, this is a band I listen to a lot, and I just started listening to it again, kind of diving into some of their past albums and some of the greatest hits. 3 Days Grace, they got new stuff out, but the stuff I've been listening to is a song, I Hate Everything About You. I love that song. It's an awesome song. If you haven't heard it, I recommend that song. The Animal I Have, Become, and Pain. There's like 3 of the songs I've been listening to a lot. But I've been kind of diving into back and forth through some of their stuff. I really like that band a lot. They have a lot of good tunes.
Cool, yo. So my music that we're listening to is Quarantine, fronted by Chris Jericho. A couple months ago, they put out they're a cover band. They are a KISS cover band. I guess I should tell people that. They're a KISS cover band, and they redo 80s unmasked Kiss songs, and their newest one is probably their best one, which is Turn on the Night, which I actually like. Like, I like the song, period.
I've
I like,
heard it. Jericho sounds great on it.
yes, I like the Kiss version of it, but I also like the Quarantine version of it. Other songs they have remade: Heart of Chrome, Good Girl Gone Bad, No No No, Silver Spoon, and Love's a Deadly Weapon. Uh, it's on all the streaming platforms as far as I know. I have Spotify. All of those songs are on Spotify if you want to listen to them. And I'm sure you can find them on YouTube if you haven't heard them before.
The one thing I'll add about Jericho to your
Please,
news,
please.
you don't find this often. Like he he loves Kiss, but he definitely loves the newest era of Kiss more than the older era, and you don't find that a lot. Like I love the whole package.
I got a little nugget,
Ooh,
a
cool.
little tidbit, and we haven't done many nuggets and tidbits lately.
I was gonna say it's been a while.
Do you know that Chris Jericho fronts the only unmasked Kiss cover band?
I did not know that.
There are no unmasked Kiss cover bands.
Hmm.
I think it's great.
I think it is great too.
I think between Jericho and Bruce Kulick, they keep that era of the band alive and spoken for.
And I'm thankful for that.
I am too.
The other little thing I think we'd be remiss if we didn't say, if you don't know who Chris Jericho is, he's a legendary Hall of Fame wrestler from WWE. He's been in a lot of different organizations, but I think most people do know who he is. But if you don't, that's where he came into fame with through wrestling.
And he's also the lead singer of Fozzy,
Mm-hmm.
which is a hard rock heavy metal band. And it has always been an amazing thing to me how similar Jericho's voice sounds to Ozzy on those records, which
Okay.
I'm guessing that Jericho knows that he sounds like Ozzy, which is why he named the band Fozzy.
Ozzy, Ozzy. Oh,
But
okay.
it if we can get Chris Jericho on our little podcast, we'll ask him that stupid question.
That's gonna happen.
We have a ginormous shouted out loud segment today. Did I say ginormous?
Yeah.
Was that a cookie?
Mm-hmm.
Can I have a cookie?
I got 2 more left for you. Yeah, sure.
Our shouted out loud segment. We have 3, count them with me, 3
1, 2, 3.
individuals to talk about, 3 different ones.
1, 2, 3.
2 are our most loyal followers who have come through once again. This might be the best part of doing this podcast, is receiving an email from someone helping the rest of the audience out and also helping us out. So let's start with KJ Nodwell, who sent me some audio of Peter Criss singing a Budweiser jingle from 1981. I know it sounds funny. You know what isn't funny? He sounds really good. He sounds really good. I don't know what, I had never heard or seen it before. Like, it's not, I don't think it was a television commercial. I think it was a commercial for radio. I'm not even sure that it ever actually made it out, but it is definitely Peter Criss. I can tell it's Peter Criss. And since I'm testing the limits of copyright infringement with Eddie Trunk's 3 seconds, 10 seconds on, if I can put it up here, I'll see if I can get that to go through. If not, the link will be in the show notes, and you can also search Peter Criss Budweiser commercial 1979 on YouTube, and you can find it there. But I thought
Thank you,
it was
KJ.
interesting.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, KJ Nodwell. We appreciate the hell out of you. Next, Dan the Man. Dan the Man also sent me a link to a mini doc called The Land of Hope and Glory. I have seen that before. I don't know if anybody else has seen it. It's pretty good. It's old. It's from the early 80s, late 79 maybe. If anyone hasn't seen this, I will also add the link in the show notes. It's very hard, I think, for Dan. Dan the Man is from Australia, so it was. I think it was bigger news for Dan the Man, or I just got lucky and I had stumbled across it a few times in the past.
Either way, we thank you for your contribution to this to the Hooligan Nation. Thank you, Hooligan.
Absolutely, we appreciate you, Dan the Man. And finally, I met one of our subscribers while at my local ShopRite. Leo is a teenage KISS fan. I'll put the picture of me and Leo up here. So all of our talk about how everyone that watches us or listens to us are 50 years or older is wrong. So I thought it was interesting to come across Leo. I don't know Leo. Leo commented on my KISS shirt that I had on, and Leo and I had a conversation and we took some pictures, and I took a picture for me also so I could post this up on our podcast because we have a teenage hooligan and we found a living, breathing teenage KISS fan, which kind of shocked me.
Well, when you told me, the first thing I was saying to myself is, he's got some cool parents.
Yes, he was most definitely parented the correct way. Thank you, KJ Nodwell, Dan the Man, and Leo for supporting us. And thank you everyone else out there that's watching this also for supporting us. We appreciate it.
And don't forget, if you dig us, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget.
After you hit the subscribe button, if you haven't hit that yet.
What he said.
And finally, our latest poll. This poll was conducted for 6 days, and we compiled the results from our community tab and our Facebook group, Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric podcast, which I don't know if you've noticed this, Father Rocco, but we are rapidly gaining members almost every day on the Facebook group.
I've been noticing that. It's great.
For those of you, we appreciate
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's not a marketing and promotion thing for us. It's a community thing for us. Like, we just want to get as many people that watch us on YouTube and listen to us on the podcast to join the Facebook group so we can interact with you easier.
Yeah, and you know what? It's another area too where you guys, if you see content or you see something cool or you come up with an idea or you have poll ideas, things like that, it's just another way to communicate with us and add to add to what we're trying to make to, put out there as far as the hooligan community is concerned.
Absolutely. The latest poll. The poll was, do you think that at 79 years old, Peter is going to put out an actual rock album? Father Rocco, do you have an opinion?
Yeah, I damn well hope so. No, I think I said before, like, I want an album of, if it isn't to the level of Black Diamond, I want some rock stuff, at least like Hooligan, Getaway. I want some of that. I don't want to hear any lounge act, any of that kind of jazz stuff. Like, I know that was his core of who he was, and I like his drumming, and everything, but I want to hear the rock Peter Criss. We all have. I think it's been coming for a long time. Hopefully, again, the Catman, this is like his last of the lives when it comes to putting out any kind of music, I would think. I mean, at his age. So I'm hoping that maybe the last one is the best one.
But do you think he's capable of it?
Yes.
After putting out all of the prior solo albums that have never come close?
Actually, I think it's in him, motivation wise. I mean, that guy, what was his name that had him on his thing?
Julian Gill.
Yeah, well, I mean, he basically advertised it in a way that is what we've been waiting for all these years. So Do I think that he still has the voice? I mean, I've heard interviews with him. I think vocally, absolutely. I think he can still put out stuff like Black Diamond. I still think it's in him. But as far as the drumming, I don't know if he can still, hold up to that kind of level, that he from then. But I mean, he definitely has some incredible musicians working with him to help him put out, hopefully in theory, what the rock part of Peter Chris.
Well, I was extremely surprised at the great optimism, at least of our audience. 66% of our audience that voted in the poll thinks Peter can do it.
Wow.
I was surprised.
How much
I
of
mean,
that
look,
percentage do you think is hope?
well, I was going to say that. I hope,
Yeah, me too.
I really hope, but if
Well, you know what? Here's an interesting take, and I want your opinion on this, right? How much of what Peter put out has been what he thought he should put out, like what he wants to put out? I don't think, to me, I don't think he was motivated to put out stuff like Black Diamond. I think that was more of a fan thing. Maybe it finally got through to him that, you know what, we love that. We want more of that. And you got one last shot to show it. Show it.
I guess I'm not smart enough to answer that. I mean,
At heart, he's a jazz guy at heart. You know what I'm saying?
number one, at the end of the day, um, I'm not, by no means, people, am I comparing us to Peter Chris. But if we were doing a podcast and people kept saying, stop doing this, we want you to do this, at some point, we would have to decide, are we doing this podcast solely for us, or are we doing it solely for you, and come up with some kind of change? Now, thank God, we're, I don't know, we're almost 40 episodes in. We have not gotten that comment or that email yet. But I would think after almost 50 years of people complaining, people like me complaining about Peter Chris's solo efforts, maybe he got the point. I don't know.
So I hope so.
It's kind of weird to me that at 79 years old, it's just weird timing. Look, if this album comes out and it's terrible, but it's a hard rock album, I'm good. We will promote, and not that we're going to be much help, but we'll promote and market the hell out of it because he did that. And because I think after this long, if he actually puts out a hard rock album, I definitely think the fans have a lot to do with why he does it.
That's well said.
It's either he's giving us what we want or he's telling us to shut up. And either way, I'm good with either one of them. At the end of the day, I think it's great that at 79 years old, Peter made another album because he wanted to. No matter what it is, I think it's great. If it's another lounge act album, I still think it's great that at 79 years old, he finds himself motivated to make it. If it's another lounge act album and it has one song that reaches half the level of Black Diamond, good job, Peter. But if not, at the end of the day, if he enjoyed the process, I think he earned the right to pretty much do whatever he wants. And, hopefully we all like it. And I do think it's part of our job as KISS fans to support him, good, bad, or ugly. Hey, let me ask you a question.
What do you got?
Do you YouTube?
I'm always on YouTube.
When you YouTube, how do you support the YouTubers that you like?
If I find something I dig, I subscribe to it and I hit like right away.
That's a great idea. I'm sure the creators appreciate your support.
I would think so.
You think maybe now's a good time to ask everyone in the audience to support us?
Absolutely.
To everyone in the audience, please subscribe to our little channel. And while you're there, hit the like button.
We're enjoying what we're doing and we want to continue to grow the hooligan community.
We appreciate all your support.
Absolutely.
So now we reach our main event. Are you ready?
Yes.
Hooligans out there, are you ready to hear the Johnny Carson list? You know, the correct list.
I'm not going to say anything.
Oh.
I've already said my piece.
I feel as though we might have just heard crickets.
I'm not happy with my list, but that's okay.
One more time, just to make this clear to everybody. For a song to get a 10, it needed to be what we consider a legendary Kiss song. 9, an amazing Kiss song, had to be one of the stars of the record. An 8, great Kiss song. 7, good Kiss song. 6, above average Kiss song. 5, an average Kiss song. 4, below average. 3, bad Kiss song. 2, Hooligan Nation Skippy song. 1 is an awful song, period. And 0 is no redeeming value of a song. It's literally a 0. With that being said, we sent out some emails to some of our friends and listeners of this podcast and asked for their list. First, we got a list from Dan the Man, hailing from down under in Australia. So we're going to go over his list as soon as I find it. Dan's list from worst to first: Asylum, then Monster, Gene Simmons solo album, Carnival of Souls, Psycho Circus, Hot in the Shade, Animalize, Peter Criss solo album, Music from the Elder, Sonic Boom, Crazy Nights, Lick It Up, Dress to Kill, Paul Stanley solo album, Unmasked, Rock and Roll Over, Love Gun, Dynasty, Revenge, Creatures of the Night, Ace Frehley solo album, Destroyer, Hotter Than Hell, and Kiss's self-titled debut album. Thoughts?
Interesting. I mean, it's definitely a lot different than mine. He had Asylum as his worst album, and I have it pretty high up on mine.
Well, everybody's list is going to be different than yours.
That's okay. I listen to the list that he has, and I actually think it's kind of cool because, again, what is the overwhelming theme that we've had from the very beginning of this? There's something for everybody, and everybody views the band and the music differently. He has the Elder pretty high up there, right? I had Elder. Elder was my last favorite song, last of the list of my list. He had it like not way up on the top, but he had it somewhere in the middle of the pack.
He did. It was close to the middle, but on the bottom half. Yeah, I thought, look, this is the part, like, me doing my list is the least intriguing part of this. Me reading and hearing other people's lists is much more interesting to me. Look, I joke about it, but your list blew my mind. Certain things made sense to me, but certain things just blew my mind. But that's the beauty of KISS. All right, next, Victor, our friend from the Signals from Mars podcast. Number 24, Peter Criss' solo album. Number 23, Crazy Nights.
I knew that was going to be low for him.
Then Sonic Boom, Hot in the Shade, Gene Simmons solo album, Music from the Elder, Unmasked, Psycho Circus, Asylum, Revenge, Animalize, Monster, Carnival of Souls, Paul Stanley solo album, Now the Top 10, Love Gun, Lick It Up, Ace Frehley solo album, Hotter Than Hell, Kiss's self-titled debut, Dynasty, Destroyer, Dress to Kill, Rock and Roll Over, and the least shocking of all of the lists is Creatures of the Night comes in at number 1 for Victor.
That's definitely not surprising.
Yeah, I'm a little shocked at how high Dynasty was. It was in the top 10.
Yeah, he kind of clued that in when we talked about Dynasty before. I'm not surprised too much because he gave it a lot of props the one week when we had him on the show.
And finally, our last list before mine, from the legend of my brother, who has come out from under his rock and supplied us with his list.
Thanks, Red.
Can everybody take a moment and give him a round of applause?
And in case you don't know, his brother, my cousin, Mike, is the one that rolled out the red carpet of KISS to us and heavy metal and rock and roll. For that, him and me both will always be indebted. And thank you for contributing this week.
If you are a loyal follower of our podcast, you have heard this time and time and again. Please, please, please. We know he watches the podcast, but he doesn't comment on it. And we've asked him to come on this podcast like 5 times. If you guys can drop comments trying to motivate him to come on this podcast, please do so. It's my goal in life to get him on this podcast. With that being said, coming in at number 24, Peter Criss's solo album. I could have called that. Gene Simmons' solo album, Carnival of Souls, Psycho Circus, Music from the Elder, Revenge, Crazy Nights, Asylum, Hot in the Shade, Animalize, Creatures of the Night, shocker, Lick It Up, Hotter Than Hell, Dynasty, Paul Stanley solo album, Unmasked, Dress to Kill, Love Gun, the self-titled KISS album, Rock and Roll Over, Ace's solo album comes in at number 2. That is not a shock at all. And coming in at number 1 is Destroyer, and that is also not a shock at all.
The two glaring surprises to me is Creatures of the Night and Revenge are really low on his list. That surprised me.
It surprised me also.
Carnival of Souls, I wasn't too surprised. That was very low, but I didn't think Mike really got into grunge too much. So that doesn't surprise me.
I was also a little shocked at how high Unmasked was.
What about Dynasty? Where did he have Dynasty again?
About the middle of the road. But thank you, Dan the Man, Victor, and Mike for participating in the list. And now for what we've all been waiting for. All right, so my number 24, as shocking as this is Hot in the Shade. Very simply put, it was an album that was terribly beaten up by having 15 songs on it. I will agree with the fact that if this album was a 10-song album, it would have been a whole lot better than the 15-song album that they put out.
Agree.
Couple of the highlights of this album were Hide Your Heart, Forever, and Rise to It. And a couple of the lowlights, Cadillac Dreams, Read My Body, which is terrible. Little Caesar, unfortunately, I mean, it's Eric Carr's one of 2 of his only vocal leads. I love Eric Carr. I love his voice. I just hate the song. And Boomerang, I also don't like the song, and so on. I gave this album a lot of 3s and 4s. My number 23, which is Peter Criss's 1978 solo album, which most of us know is just a travesty altogether. There's like 2 songs on Peter's album that I can even stand to listen to, and that's You Matter to Me, which I gave a 5, and I Can't Stop the Rain, I think is a good album. and are a good song, and I gave that a 7. Everything else is 3s, 4s, and 5s.
We both had Peter Chris, the same number, 23rd.
Coming in at number 22, look, as interesting as this album is, and as much as I no longer hate it, The Elder is still not what I would call a good album. It's got some interesting songs on it. I hate Fanfare. I gave it a 2. A lot of 2s, 4s, and 5s. My opinion is Dark Light is the star on this album. I gave it a 7. And I'm not a big fan of A World Without Heroes, but it is a good song. I gave that and a 6. Coming in at number 21, Sonic Boom. I understand the effort. I think it's marred by production issues and lack of motivation from Gene and Paul. What do I know? I don't really know anything, but that's the way I look at it. Again, a bunch of 4s and 5s, a couple 6s, Modern Day Delilah, Never Enough, and actually the Tommy Thayer, When Lightning Strikes, and also Say Yeah. But the highest score I gave any song on Sonic Boom was a 6.
We were lockstep. We both had it at 21.
Coming in at number 20, Monster. I think after a while, creative people run out of material. Again, a lot of 4s, a lot of 5s. It's not a bad album. They're not bad songs. They're just not great songs. The highest, I gave 2 6s, Hell or Hallelujah and Freak. And in my opinion, everything else is a 4 and 5. Coming in at number 19, Gene Simmons' 1978 solo album. This wasn't a train wreck, but it was Gene being as eccentric as humanly possible. My highest ranked song is Radioactive, which I really like and I really think is a good song. I gave it an 8. And then there's a couple 6s, a 5, 4, and I gave When You Wish Upon a Star a 3. I do not need my demon singing Disney songs. I'm sorry. Next, coming in at 18, Unmasked. It's a pop record. I'm not crazy about it. To me, it's a pretty consistent record. I gave it a lot of 6s, a couple 5s, and I don't like You're All That I Want. That's my lowest score. I gave it a 4. But songs like Is That You, Shandy, Talk to Me, Naked City, What Makes the World Go Round, I think are good songs. I gave them 6s, but it's still not enough to get it any higher.
I don't really care for Shandy, but it's not horrible. There's not really the biggest compliment I can give that album is there's not one Skippy song on the album. Like you said, it is consistent.
It is. It's consistently
Average.
above average. I would call it consistently above average.
Yeah,
but
I don't think it reached that level for me. Any of those songs.
coming in at number 17, Asylum, consistent to me. The star of the record, hands down, is Tears Are Falling. I gave it a 7. And I didn't give any song on this album a score lower than a 5.
That's our biggest Asylum, I think, out of the entire catalog is yours and my biggest difference. There's a lot of songs I like on Asylum that I definitely rated it higher.
One of my problems with Asylum is the sound of Paul's voice. He's somewhere between the 1978 solo album and Crazy Nights, which Crazy Nights he hit the Mickey Mouse octave.
When we're done, I want to see, not now, don't even tip it off, but I want to see how different we are with Crazy Nights and Asylum. I want to see how different we are with that when we're done.
So coming in at number 16, this is my first cop out. I like this album, but I like everything in the top 15 more. To me, we're done with the stinkers. we were done with the stinkers at like 23. This is a matter of what I like more. So my number 16 is Carnival of
Yeah, I had a
Souls.
feeling.
Look, it's an inconsistent album to me. I said this on the episode where we talked about it. Like, I listed Hate as an 8, but then you get to the second half of the record and I got a bunch of 4s. And then the last 2 songs, In the Mirror gets a 5 and I Walk Alone gets a 6. I think I Walk Alone is a great Bruce Kulick song. I just can't give it anything better than a 6. Master and Slave, Childhood's End, I Will Be There, Jungle, all 6s to me. All good songs, just not up to the level of the top 15.
Yeah, I mean, you know how I feel. Like I think I'm right on par with you when it came to the grunge thing. Like when grunge first started, it broke my heart because it killed my music. It killed my '80s heavy metal hairband music. It Nirvana still to this day still bothers me, but I warmed up to alternative stuff with Alice in Chains. That album Facelift, I love that album. It warmed me up to it. And once I got to 10 from Pearl Jam, it hooked me on grunge. And I didn't think Kiss could pull it off. And I really like that album. And there's not, we go through this list and it's find the stinkers, right? On every album. That's how you're gonna rate them. Is find the stinkers, and those stinkers really hurt the score of the album.
Absolutely.
There wasn't any stinkers at all for me. For me, there wasn't any stinkers on Carnival of Souls.
Personal taste plays a large part in this.
True.
I'm still not a big fan of grunge. Now, with that being said, the way this album was rolled out was terrible. And I can tell you right now, I never gave it any chance. I probably really first gave it a chance about 10 years ago, found Hate, said, I love this song, and that was it. And it wasn't until recently that I learned to appreciate Carnival of Souls. I'm not, by putting it where I put it at 16, I'm not trying to say it's a bad album. I think it's a good album. When I'm in the mood for that, I put on Carnival of Souls. It just doesn't happen as often as the rest of the top 15. This is my first shock for me, and that's number 15. And my number 15 album is Crazy Nights, an album that really is an average album to me, but a couple
With a great
songs,
song on it, with a couple really good songs.
couple songs like Crazy Crazy Nights, I gave a 7. Reason to Live, I gave a 7. And then I dropped down, I gave a few 6s, and the lowest score I gave were 5s. It's an average to slightly above average album. No, I do not like the production of it. Yes, I do know that Kiss was trying to sound like Bon Jovi. No, I do not want Kiss to sound like Bon Jovi. I want Kiss to sound like Kiss. But as we learned going through this journey of albums, what exactly is the Kiss sound?
That's a good point.
I mean, they have so many different sounds. It's just a matter of what you like and what you don't like. And to me, Crazy Nights is my 15th favorite album.
The most common thing that I've said throughout all these album reviews is even the stuff that I didn't really care for too much, I found myself saying it's got a decent groove. So to me, Kiss's sound is music that always has at least has a decent groove.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. Whatever, 200, around 250 songs, I gave 1 0. 1
Rock and roll party
out of 250 songs, which brings me to number 14, which is probably my second biggest shock because I do love this album and very few Kiss fans seem to love this album, but I do love Psycho Circus. and it comes in way too low for me at number 15. I think Psycho Circus is a great album. Yes, I know.
I don't say great, but I mean, I I, I think what was the reoccurring thing I said when we were doing the review? Do you remember?
No.
Two incredible songs, and the rest of the album's average to me. Incredible songs, like "We Are One's" one of my favorite songs all
Oh.
time, and "Psycho Circus" had major impact on me. One of my favorite concert songs was the entire time I've gone to see them live was "Psycho Circus."
Yeah, I gave Psycho Circus an 8. I think Psycho Circus is a great Kiss song. What really hurt this album was I Finally Found My Way, got a 2, because I think it's unlistenable. It's terrible. It, as I've said before, so you can mute if you don't want to hear me say it again. Kiss, Peter Criss, stop trying to reinvent Beth. And because you tried to reinvent Beth, I gave it a 2. And the rest of the album, there's a couple 5s, mostly 6s, and the Psycho Circus 8. What killed Psycho Circus the album was I Finally Found My Way. Coming in at number 13, an album that I really like, Paul Stanley's 1978 solo album, littered with 7s, 6s, and 5s. I don't think there's any bad songs on this album. Probably my least favorite song is Hold Me, Touch Me, of course. My second least favorite song is Take Me Away. And then Tonight You Belong to Me, Wouldn't You Like to Know Me, Ain't Quite Right gets 7s, Love in Chains gets a 7. But at the end of the day, the top 12 just had better songs, in my opinion. I think Paul Stanley's 1978 solo album is the second best solo album. I think it is a very good representation of the brand and band KISS. It just falls where it falls because pretty much because of the top 12. It could easily be my number 1 album if they hadn't made the 12 records that were in front of it. I looked at this as not worst to first. I listed my 22 favorite KISS albums and the 2 stinkers. Coming in at number 12, again, I sound like a broken record, an album that I really like, Animalize. Some people beat up the shredder guitaring of Mark St. John. There's parts of this record where he goes overboard or they go overboard. But it's got one of the best album openers, I've Had Enough, which I think is a great KISS song. I gave it an 8. Heaven's on Fire comes in with an 8 also. Thrills in the Night comes in with a 7. Again, to me, no stinkers on this record. Everything is 5 and above. The problem is the rest of the songs to me are pretty much average. They're 5s. I have to admit, and I can't believe I'm going to admit this in public, I gave Burn Bitch Burn a 6. It's catchy. It's hooky. It's an above average KISS song to me.
I gave it a 7.
All right. So, well, we know you scored higher than me.
Yeah.
You're less of a cynical criticizer than I am.
By the way, I do have my heart list.
Oh, you do? You have your heart on? We're not going to have that kind of time for that. Coming in at number 11, Dynasty. Now, let me explain. I think I Was Made for Loving You is a great song. I don't care that it's disco. I think it's a great song. I gave it an 8. Songs like 2000 Man, Sure Know Something, of course, Dirty Living, Magic Touch, all came in at 6s and 7s. I gave Hard Times a 7. I think it's a great KISS song. It literally was 1 percentage point away from getting in the top 10.
Yeah, even though me and you, it's funny because we're lockstep in a lot of things in this, but for as much as I'm like, why is he? I kind of like it. It's cool because to me, it's my number one, and it didn't make your top 10, but that's the beauty of this band. So that's cool.
Now we get to the top 10. My number 10 is Lick It Up.
I'm
Lick It Up.
surprised that you have that not higher, but
See, I looked at my top 10. I think these are all great albums in the top 10. And the separation is so little for most of these. Lick It Up was 3 percentage points from being in the top 5. Like, that's how the separation is like this from here on out. The separation is so small in the top 10. I'm not a big fan of Any on the Eighth Day. I gave it a 5. Everything else, I gave a 6 or above. Lick It Up, I gave an 8. Not for the Innocent, Young and Wasted, I gave 7s. Exciter, I love the song, I gave it a 6. It's an above average Kiss song. Coming in at number 9, Hotter Than Hell. Another great, what I consider another great Kiss album. I gave everything on this album either a 6 or a 7. I tried not to consider production. We all know it's muddy. It was very hard for me, but I gave Coming Home a 6. If it was the unplugged version of Coming Home, I would have given it a 9. Parasite, Hotter Than Hell, Let Me Go Rock and Roll, Watching You, and Mainline all got 7s. And that's really the reason why it comes in at the number that it comes in at number 9.
the songs are really good songs, but I felt pretty solid with the number because of I took the production value and account for that.
I tried not to. I don't know how successful I was because it's kind of hard, but there are some hard rock and really good songs on this album.
I agree.
Strange Ways, Hotter Than Hell, Parasite. There's
Strange
no
Ways, I don't think I like that. I don't dislike it, but I don't think I rated Strange Ways that high. I gave Strange Ways a 5.
Coming in at number 8. It was a little bit of a shock to me. Not an incredibly big shock, but the self-titled debut album. What really hurts this album for me, and also what isn't Kiss's fault, but to me, Kissin' Time hurts this album. I hate the song. I gave it a 3. And Love Theme from Kiss, I don't quite understand why it was needed on there. It's an instrumental. I'm not a big fan of instrumentals usually. I gave that a 4, and that's really what dropped this album out of the top 5 was really those 2 songs, because Firehouse, I think, is a great song. Gave it an 8. Nothing to Lose, again, if it was the unplugged version, I would have given it a 9 or a 10. I gave it a 7. Strutter a 7. Deuce a 7. Black Diamond, I gave a 9. And I was probably hard on Black Diamond. It probably should get a 10. All in all, this is a legendary Kiss album.
What did you give Cold Gin?
I gave Cold Gin a 7.
I gave it an 8.
The fact that it came in at number 8 did shock me a little bit, but we did this analytically as much as possible, so it is what it is. Coming in at number 7, another great Kiss album, Rock and Roll Over. I was pretty happy with where it turned out. If you look at it like I'm looking at it, the individual scores, all 8s, 7s, and 6s. Like, there's no bad songs on this record.
See You in Your Dreams?
See You in Your Dreams, I gave a 6.
I gave a 5.
But songs like Hard Luck Woman's an 8. Baby
I gave
Driver,
that a 10.
Baby Driver's an 8. Calling Dr. Love, I Want You, Mr. Speed, God, Mr. Speed, all 7s. It's just
Speed an 8.
it's just a matter.
Baby Driver, I gave a 7 though.
It's just a matter of the 6 in front of it. Just have more legendary songs.
What'd you give Bacon Love?
I gave Making Love a 7. Coming in at number 6. This does not really shock me. It did when I first did this, but I think I'm warming up to it. Coming in at number 6, Revenge.
Oh my God.
Look, Unholy.
I'm just kidding.
Unholy is a 9 for me. Again, God Gave Rock and Roll to You is an 8. Every Time I Look at You is a 7. The least I gave on this album were 5s. I gave Paralyzed and Car Jam 81 a 5. And look, I gave Car Jam 81 a 5 because it's an instrumental. Paralyzed, I just hate the song.
See, for me, Revenge just misses the top 10.
Yeah, so we're not that far
We're not that much
off.
No, we're not that much
Right.
off. You know what? My take on Revenge is the songs that are good are really, really good. And the songs, there's not really a lot of bad. It's just some of the other ones are just a little touch above average, but the
Right.
good ones are really good. And I love Domino.
Pretty sure I gave Domino a really, well, for what I consider a really good score.
And that's a great song live too.
I gave Domino an 8.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%.
Oh, well, thanks. Your agreement is what I live for.
Yeah. I won't hold my breath.
Now for the top 5. I'm going to tease the fact that number 2 is by far my biggest shocker. No matter how shocked anybody else may be, they aren't half as shocked as I was when this came out as number 2. Father Rocco will be able to attest to the fact that it's a shocking one. But we got to get through 5, 4, and 3 first. And my number 5 favorite, best KISS album is Creatures of the Night.
Ooh, okay. All right. Surprise there. Okay.
If you saw my scores, what really hurts Creatures of the Night is that, God damn, I Still Love You, which I hate. And even though I hate it,
now knowing you and knowing the way that makes a lot of sense now, because if that song wasn't on there, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
but even though I hate it, and I do hate the song, it's not a terrible song. So I gave it a 5. But that's what killed. Look, I'm not going to tell anybody.
Do that as a poll. I'm curious to see what overall takes of people would have on "I Still Love You."
I think you're going to find nobody in the middle of the road there. I do. I think you're going to find those people who love the song and those people who hate the song. To me, it strikes me as that kind of song. If it was up to me and I did this emotionally, I might have given it a 1 or a 2. But I did it analytically and I considered that, which is why I gave it a 5. Look, if you look at the scores that I'm looking at, there's 7s, 6s. I gave War Machine an 8. They're all above average, good to great KISS songs.
Now, see, my take is, again, nobody's wrong here, but my take on it is, it makes it more, that song makes it even more of a complete album because of how powerful a power ballad it is. Yeah. But it's just different different styles,
Yeah, I guess I blame Paul Stanley for this, because I had to sit through listening to "I Still Love You" throughout the 80s at every concert, and it just made me hate the song more and more. I think Creatures of the Night, Saint and Sinner, Rock and Roll Hell, I Love It Loud, all great songs. War Machine, I think, is an amazing song. But I can't give War Machine an 8 and then give something better than it an 8 also. That's why I scored these as hard as I scored them. I think Creatures of the Night is an amazing album. It might be their best sounding album that they ever put out. Find me another album from another band where the drums sound the way they sound on Creatures of the Night. I've never heard it. Never. Go to the great drummers, John Bonham, Neil Peart. No matter who you go to, they never had drums sound like that on an album. Credit to Eric Carr. Also credit to Michael James Jackson for the production. This was probably Kiss's best sounding album. And that's why it finds itself in the top 5. Coming in at number 4, the best of all the 1978 solo albums, Ace Frehley's 1978 solo album. Again, one of the best album openers. Rip It Out is clearly a number 8 to me. There are no bad songs on this record. The lowest point total that I gave to anything were 6s. Not a great fan of Wiped Out. And Fractured Mirror, yes, I hate instrumentals, but Fractured Mirror is a very good one. I gave it a 6. New York Groove, I think is a great song. I gave it an 8.
That's 10.
And well, I didn't give out 10s like you did.
Oh, did that come out of my mouth? I thought that I think I said that.
It did. It did. No, I can't put New York Groove next to the 2 or 3 songs that I gave 10s.
The commercial success he had with New York Groove.
I don't care about commercial success.
How complete a song it is.
My ears said an 8, and I gave it an 8, and I stand by the 8.
It's fine that you're wrong. We can get past that.
Yeah, Neil Peart. What difference does it make?
We can get past that. You're wrong, but it's okay.
And now we're down to the top 3. So I expected this album to actually come in at number 2 and was completely blown away when it didn't. My number 3 favorite best Kiss album is Destroyer. And it also comes in with what I think is my first 10, which is probably what I consider one of the most iconic Kiss songs, and that's Detroit Rock City. But again, the problem with this album, and the reason why this album came out number 3, is I still, for the life of me, do not know what Rock and Roll Party is. I know it's listed like it's a song, so I graded it like it was a song, and it's horrific. So it was given the only 0
Same here.
out of everything. I don't like Great Expectations. I think it's a lost. I think it's a lost song that I gave a 4. Detroit
Sweet Pain.
I gave Sweet Pain a 6.
Give it a 5.
Beth, I gave a 9.
10.
Shout It Out Loud, I gave it a 10.
10.
So I think those are my only 2 10s were Detroit Rock City.
What'd you do with God of Thunder?
God of Thunder, I gave an 8.
You gave it a 9.
And you know what? Let me see. Now
Well, you don't like Do You Love Me? That's our biggest difference, I think. You gave Do You Love Me a 6 probably.
I gave it a 7.
Oh, I gave it an 8. Okay.
See, no, I think what yeah, I guess you got to give credit to number 2 and number 1. It's funny when you look at number 2 next to number 3. What jumps out is album number 3 has 2 10s on it. Album number 2 doesn't have any 10s on it, but it was just so consistently above average that it came out number 2. My number 2 is Dress to Kill. Shocker. Completely shocked to
I
me.
bet you our overall number is pretty close on this album.
I would not have believed that Dress to Kill was going to come into my top 5, let alone be second.
Yeah, album wise, it's the least talked album that you have. I think one of the most least to talk. You don't talk about it a lot, but it
Right.
does have a lot of solid songs on it.
Right. I mean, look, there's no 10s. There's 1-8. I think Rock Bottom is a great song. But then Room Service, Two Timer, Getaway, Anything for My Baby gets 7s. She gets an 8. Rock and Roll All Night. Look, yes, it is a great iconic Kiss song. The difference between the live version and the studio version is so shocking to me. The live version, I would give a 12. The studio version, I gave a 9. And honestly, I probably should have given it a 7 or an 8 because it's such a striking difference from the studio version to the live version.
What was your overall number for the album?
70 out of 100.
Oh, okay. All right. I had 76.
Very little separates the two albums.
And I had Dress to Kill at number 7. I'd set my 7th place.
Yeah, so we're not that far off. And now coming into number 1, an album that I think I said in our first episode ever was my favorite album.
Yep.
And well, analytically, it held true. Love Gun is number 1 to me. It squeaked out a win over Dress to Kill by exactly 1%. I Stole Your Love, great album opener, great song. I gave it an 8. Shock Me is an 8. Love Gun gets a 10, so I had 3 10s. Hooligan, of course, gets an 8. And then the rest of the album is 7s and 6s to me. Even the bad songs on this album are great bad songs. Yes, I agree with you. Almost Human is interesting, but the bongos knocked it from a 7 to a 6 for
I had
me.
it as a 6.
And probably my least favorite song is Plaster Caster, and Then She Kissed Me. And I had to give them 6s too, because they're above average Kiss songs.
I gave them both. I actually really like Then She Kissed Me. That's just different there. But actually, Then She Kissed Me could have been on Dynasty.
Yeah, you know what? I probably would have given it a higher score if it was on Dynasty, because I took those kind of things into consideration too, like how well did it gel
Did it mess with
the rest
theme?
of the album? Yeah. But all in all,
You give I Stole Your Love a 9?
no.
I had a 9.
I gave I Stole Your Love an 8. Which to me, that's me telling you I love the song. Because I Stole Your Love is probably, if it's not my favorite song, it's probably in my top 10 of favorite songs. But for to me, like I said, you can't put I Stole Your Love with Shout It Out Loud, Love Gun, and Detroit Rock City. So I'm not going to move them down. So I moved I Stole Your Love down. There was a lot of scientific thinking. There was smoke coming out of my ears everywhere for a lot of this, but doing it analytically and it then coming out that my number 1 album was still my number 1 album was pretty interesting. I could have guessed that Ace's solo album would be in the top 5. I could have guessed that Creatures of the Night would be in the top 5. Unfortunately, you can only put 5 albums in the top 5, and the loneliest number is 1, and that's where Love Gun sits. in the only correct listing of KISS albums. Thank you.
Opinions vary.
They do. Neil Peart.
Bert,
You got anything you want to add to this in any way?
I do, but you don't want to hear it. So let's just wrap it up.
No, I want to hear it.
I got my top 10 albums from the heart.
You know what? Go for it.
Okay. My number 1 is Dynasty. 2 Creatures, 3 Ace, 4 Lick It Up, 5 Destroyer, 6 Love Gun, 7 Dress to Kill, 8 Rock and Roll Over, 9 Asylum, and 10 Carnival of Souls.
I can't argue with that. Look,
I love the whole catalog.
to
I'll take it
wrap
all.
to wrap this up, we talked about this off air. We're going to revisit this because I've heard it from people before, and I think it myself. 6 months from now, if you ask me to do this again, I think it would be different. So we're going to try to revisit this on a yearly basis as long as we're still here doing this, hopefully so. Just to see if it changes at all. And by all means, guys, if you want to go through the process, we tried to set it up that if you want to use the same analytics as us, that's why we explained it to you. If you don't, you want to go with emotion, with your heart. If you're feeling lazy, do your top 5. If you're feeling motivated to be an overachiever, put them all in there. Either way, we'd really like participation because, like I said, my list didn't really do much for me. Getting everybody else's list is really interesting to me. And like Father Rocco said, it's really the fact that all our lists are different tells you why this band is so great, because there's something for everyone.
And the hooligans out there that participated, I'd like to thank you again. And again, like if you think for some reason that your take and your list isn't something that we'd be interested in or people wouldn't want to hear, see, I mean, that's the coolest part is when you see the differences, because and that's actually seeing the differences are something that make you appreciate the band that much more, because that it's reaching people from different points of view.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, if Leo's out there watching, I would love to get a 17-year-old or a teenager's take on this and see how different it would be from the rest of us. Also, shout out to Pamplemousse. I'd love to get your take on it, and others, because we have a lot of hooligans that have strong opinions about the albums that they love. And they have as strong opinions about the albums that they do not love.
Very true.
So audience participation is kind of important for this episode.
I got one last thing, and it's about Leo. You made me think about this when you talked about Leo. Again, from earlier in the episode, Leo's a young gentleman that he met in a supermarket, right? You said?
Mm-hmm.
17 years old, and he noticed his KISS shirt that he was wearing, and it's cool seeing somebody that age. And the one thing about KISS too that we never really have talked about. You introduced KISS to your kids. I introduced KISS to my daughter. This is another band that has been handed down through generation to generation. That's another thing that's really cool about this band, because there's times you would see parents bringing their kids and putting the kids in makeup, and it really became like a family affair too, a lot of ways, through the KISS years. So just wanted to throw that. It made me think about it with that.
Called proper parenting.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
That's what it's called. Although my 17-year-old daughter probably listens to Drake, and I know she's a card-carrying Swiftie, she could still get on here and talk about KISS, and she still listens to KISS and loves KISS. If you're listening to us on any of the podcast platforms, please leave us a review. And if you just found us, check out our past episodes. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel and you like this episode, please consider hitting the like button, just like he did, and leaving us a comment. Hit that subscribe button, just like he did, so you don't miss any future episodes, and check out these episodes that are going to be hovering over my head. As always, if you made it this far, thank you for supporting us. And don't forget, my list is the only list that matters. More crickets.
I don't think so.
If it's too loud, you're too old. Peace out, Hooligan Nation.